Hi guys, this is my third podcast that I've decided to do. Apologies for the delay. I know I didn't put one out last week. I had a few issues that I was dealing with, and that will be the topic for this podcast, which is I was struggling with money issues. Now, for those people that do know me will know that I am awful with money, always have been when I have it and when I don't have it. As funny as it's going to sound, I'm even worse when I don't have it because I still spend it as if I have it. So one of the biggest issues that I had last week was going into my overdraft, and then with everyone knowing that interest rates are now skyrocketing, so as soon as you go into your overdraft, then you are basically paying a lot of money out that you don't have. And I had a number of outgoings that I really shouldn't have had. I don't know if I mentioned it on any of the earlier podcasts, but I recently started doing an IT course in just basic IT and cybersecurity. Now, that was something that I rushed into headfirst really quickly, not taking into account the amount that it was going to cost. And the cost of the course was £1,000 up front or £150 each month until it's paid off. And obviously when you pay off monthly, you end up actually paying more than if you pay it outright. It's just for the convenience of having not have to fork out that much money in one go. And for the first couple of weeks I was doing really well with it. So Monday to Wednesday, sometimes on a Thursday, because obviously I have my daughter from Thursday to Sunday night, maybe Monday morning. So I was primarily doing it on Monday to Wednesday, and I would do a good 4 or 5 hours for the first couple of weeks, and then nothing. After a few weeks, I had realised I'd bitten off more than I could chew. The amount of information that I had to learn was just exhausting, and it was just, I was coming up with any excuse not to do it. Like, I was too tired that day, I couldn't do it, or I've got something else that's more important, even though there wasn't anything else that I was doing. Or, oh, my friends are on Xbox this afternoon, I need to play with them. So just rubbish excuses, and now I'm in a situation where I could potentially have to either give up the course, in which I've wasted potentially £500 at minimum for nothing, or I see if I can actually force myself to do it and get through it as quickly as possible, and see if I can try and pass it. Now, I have a really bad issue with not following through with things. To be fair, I was only 18, 19 at the time, but I did move out to Australia when around, I think it was 2013. I was there for about 3 months and I couldn't hack it. I don't know whether it was being homesick or whether I just wasn't. I was just really looking for like a long holiday, but I didn't really look. I had enough money behind me that I could afford to be out there for that long without working. But then it was getting to the point where I had to look for jobs, whether it be apple picking or whatever fruit picking that they have out there. But I just didn't really put the effort in. Same with, I moved to Portsmouth with a few of my friends who were studying down in Portsmouth at the time. I wasn't studying, so I was working full-time at a pub local to where I was living. I say local, there's about 45 minute, probably about half an hour train journey, or half an hour all-round trip. And again, I was only there with them for about 3 months before I was like, you know what, I want to go back to something that's more familiar. So I quit at the pub that I was working at in Portsmouth, moved back home with mum and dad, but obviously I was in a contract, so I had to pay rent at the other house that I was supposed to be living in, which was another waste of money. So yeah, I do know that I have a very bad problem when it comes to money. My mum is, I wouldn't say uptight when it comes to money. She's very savvy with how she spends her money. She is very sort of like, yes, I may want it, but do I need it, and can I really afford it? And if the answer is no to either of those two questions, then she won't get it. So she was very reluctant on the possibility of having to fork out for a new TV. But lucky for her, I managed to figure out that it was just the HDMI port that was a bit worn, and switched the plugs around, and now it works fine. So she's now happy that she doesn't have to spend any more money on a new TV. That one should hopefully last until, I don't know, maybe another couple of years. But I've never come to grips with how to save money. I've done it once when I was working in a pub in Albert Langley in Watford, and the only thing, to be honest, the only reason why I managed to save that as much money as I did is because I was working so many hours I didn't have the time to spend it. So I would literally wake up, go to work, come home, go to sleep, and then same the next day, wake up, go to work, go home, go to sleep. So there wasn't really time for me to spend money. So yeah, that's the only time I've really been half decent with my money. And I know that a lot of people are struggling with money in this current climate and with the current situation. I know earlier this afternoon and this evening they announced that they're hoping to reduce lockdown shortly. Hopefully people might be going back to work or getting new jobs because new jobs are being offered, and it's just really tough. And I really wish that I was a lot better with how I spent my money. I mean, I forked out however much it was for this podcast microphone, and it sat on the desk for about 3 months before I even plugged it in and actually thought, you know what, I'm going to start talking about something. So yeah, that's another thing that I almost wasted money on. I feel like I'm getting some use out of it now, obviously, starting my podcast. Hope it carries on. I hope people are enjoying it. I know it's a bit... last week, the last one was okay because it was a bit more upbeat, but this one and my first one have been a bit... a bit depressing. But I'm hoping that people are listening to this and going, you know what, I'm not the only one with these issues. Like, there are other people out there that are experiencing the exact same thing as me. And if that's all it takes to help people is for me to tell stories about my personal problems, what has happened to me in the past and what is happening to me now, then I am really happy to know that I'm helping people. And that's all I really wanted to do at this, when I started, was to try and help people, not worry about the fact that they have possibly anxiety, depression, or they've got issues with their money. Not everyone's perfect, everyone's got a flaw. So don't beat yourself up about any of these flaws that you may have. That's why I didn't talk about this last week, was because I literally spent the whole weekend and the whole week beating myself up, saying, why have I got myself in this situation yet again? And I'm just trying to learn. I know it's a long time for me to learn from these mistakes, I've been making them for so long, but I am trying to learn from these mistakes. And I know that a lot of people will continue to make the same mistakes over and over. And you've just got to work on it. You can't keep making these same mistakes, you've got to keep working on it. And I know from experience that I am really struggling with that. I'm really trying to work hard on these mistakes that I keep on making, especially with my money, because obviously she'd be 3 in a couple of weeks, so with a 3-year-old I really need to start getting more responsible with my money and how I spend it, making sure that I'm saving money rather than buying the latest 4K movie or latest TV, latest console, and rushing into doing these courses that cost a lot of money, and then after a couple of weeks or even a couple of months just being like, that wasn't really for me. So money was the topic for this week. I'm hoping to put out another one first thing next week, and until then I hope everyone stays safe and take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.